Welcome, welcome. Welcome in, everybody. It's great to see you. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome, welcome. Yay! Hi, everybody. Welcome into session 1 of December. We are here. Happy birthday to Heidi Cruz. It was fun giving you a little birthday reading in our session earlier. How are you guys today? Welcome in. Can you believe it's December? As I was prepping class today, I was really mindful of the fact that this is our last month of Soul Shift 2020. The good news is we just carry right on. Soul Shift continues through 2021. So does Crystal Masters, and really nothing is changing except the content. So your experience and my experience is just going to kind of continue. You know what I mean? But I'm very happy to be with you now. And we have some new folks. Anybody new tonight? Is anybody new to Soul Shift tonight? Yeah, I got a new light in my crystal room, and I finally think I figured it out. Which is good. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? I love that. Well, carry on we do. Feels good to carry on. You know what? One of the things I really am craving in my life, I don't know about you, is consistency. I don't want a whole bunch of disruption right now, personally. I'm enjoying the status quo, and I'm trying to create that for my kids. I'm trying to create it for you. I'm trying to create it for myself and my family. So if you see me kind of dabbing my eye, I have an allergy today, and I took a Zyrtec, but it's not really helping all that much. So if it looks like I'm crying, they're just tears of joy and also tears of allergies. So welcome. Look at that. So Namaste Nancy's new, Olya's old. Seasoned, darling. We are not old. We are seasoned and experienced members here together. And I'm so happy to see you guys. I'm so happy it's making me cry. Just kidding. We have to do the work again. I know. Look at that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And cheers. Yeah, really happy to have you guys here. Okay. So we have a lot to do tonight. I want to explain to you what I'm going to be doing. So session 1 of each month this year has been your priestessing content. There was actually a question in the group, like, is this our priestessing content? Yes, this is your priestessing content. And I want to take a minute to kind of clarify that, because I think it's really important. And it's important, I think, for those of you who are continuing and those of you that are new. So session 1 is your priestessing content. It's your leadership content. So each month you get worksheets. This month it was a lot. Sorry, not sorry. It was a lot of worksheets this month, but we have a lot of work to do this month. It's the last month of the year. So all of your worksheets and then this teaching are what we call the priestessing training. And for me, what priestessing is leadership. Now, what some people consider priestessing to be is someone, only focusing on magic and ritual and ceremony and protocol and things like that. But for me, priestessing is what you do when you feel discouraged. To me, priestessing is, how do you handle it when people close to you turn on you? How do you handle life when a pandemic strikes and you have to keep your own energy afloat in order to be strong for your friends and your family and loved ones who need you? To me, that's also priestessing. So I haven't focused just on magical priestessing this year, although we focused on that in certain ways. I have really tried to focus this year on spiritual leadership as priestessing. And for me, that work has come through each one of the themes that we've given you over the course of each month. And then on top of that, we've had our acknowledgements and our Angelophos symbols. Now, all 3 of those are separate. The acknowledgements are our way this year of teaching you shadow work. And we're actually going to go through the 12 tonight to recap. And we're going to go through the 12 Angelophos symbols tonight to recap. So if you're new or you came in after, March, April, May, June, tonight's going to be really great for you because it's actually going to go back and pick up from before you got here and give you an overview. Some people got here late in the year. They don't care about the certificates. They just want to learn. right? So they may not go back and pick up and watch all of the earlier classes. If you complete the whole year, you get the 4 certificates. But a lot of people are here and don't really care about certificates, which is okay. I'm a certificate kind of person. I like having paper on the wall that says I did something, especially when it's a program that I've made a financial investment in. But some people are just about the learning and the experience. And so if that's you, if you're not planning to go back and pick up everything from the beginning, then what I want to offer you tonight is a little bit of a recap and an overview, which will give you context from no matter where you've started. It'll kind of show you how things fit into the bigger picture. Does that make sense? So that feels really important for tonight, to tie up some loose ends. So there were 3 parts really to our session 1 curriculum each month, and I'm just going over this so it all kind of makes a little bit more sense. The acknowledgments was my way of doing shadow work all year, instead of just shoving it into October, November, which is what I usually do. Because we usually think of the shadow months as being October and around Samhain and when the veil is thin and all of that, and we tend to try to like compartmentalize the shadow work and put it in a little box and do it for a month, and then we don't talk about shadow for the rest of the year. But shadow happens all year long. Shadow happens 365 days a year. It's half of who you are. Do you know what I mean? So if we only talk about it in October, then how do we think about shadow in June? Isn't it happening? So I tried to give you shadow curriculum through these acknowledgments that would kind of pace you and spread the work out. So we did it from April to December. So that's the acknowledgments. The Angelifo symbols are symbols that I received from ayahuasca a year ago in October, so about 14 months ago. And I was shown the symbols, and she said I needed to activate them with this community. So I kind of added it as a layer on our cake. Originally, it wasn't part of the curriculum. But once the symbols came through, I'm like, well, I mean, it's kind of like Reiki. You add it to whatever else you're doing. It's like seasoning. It's like Mrs. Dash. You know, like the symbols are like a little extra, like, oh, here you go, something that didn't come from me, something that came from my spirit guides. That feels really good. So that's what the Angelifo symbols are. And then there is what I call the pillars of priestessing, which is your core leadership training. And this particular month, we are really taking the opportunity to go back and instead of learning something new, we're going back and sort of revisiting the themes from the last 11 and a half months that we have done. So those are the worksheets that we're going through tonight. Our theme this month, and it's really going to come up more in session 3 than even tonight, although I'm going to start the story for you tonight. Our theme this month is celebrating divine unity, and that's why I chose Isis and Osiris as our guides. So we're going to journey with Isis and Osiris during week 3, which I think is going to be really exciting. I'm going to teach you a little bit about Isis and Osiris tonight in the context of alchemy. Did you know that they're related? And I'll as we move into our proper alchemy content in 2021, I'll take you on an even deeper dive to understand more of the nuances of that. But Thoth is involved with Isis and Osiris in the realm of alchemy, and actually came forward as an assistant to save and support Isis. Which, if you know that story, then you know that story. But if you don't, I'll share the story with you, and especially as we go into our journey. And Morgan is kind enough and generous enough and brilliant enough that he has made some content too in our Facebook group to support you. And he asked me if it was okay for him to share, and I said, of course. I think it's really fun when you guys make the content your own and you bring your own kind of unique magic to it. I think that's really quite something, and we all benefit from it. So thank you for also bringing your wisdom forward. And if you find something about Isis and Osiris and you get super excited about it, you're also very welcome to share that content too. So that's where we're headed tonight, and that's kind of the lay of the land of the content for the year. Do you have any questions about any of that? So each first session, what we've done is activate one of the Angelifo symbols, sometimes 2. It depends, because we kind of had to collapse the symbols into one year. And then we go through our theme, and I have my core teaching for you, which is about the application of leadership principles in a spiritual context. And then we have our guides for the month, as well as our acknowledgement. So Francine, I think next year's programs, Alexis, do you know for sure? I think next year's programs go live next week, I want to say. Is it like the 8th or the 10th of December? I can't remember. What's really holding it up is getting our web pages built out more than anything, because we have all the themes for the months. We've ordered the tools for the first 6 months of the classes, which is great. Your Emerald tablet notebooks are ordered, and we've got all kinds of fun stuff coming for you. So all of that is built out, but we just have to make sure that the website is ready and that there's a nice welcome video for me to say hello. So, okay, they're launching on the 8th. So a week from yesterday is when the new programs will launch. It's not going to give you totally crystalline details, and the reason is what I've learned over the last couple of years that I've been doing this. I've been teaching online classes like this for almost 9.5 years now. What I've learned is if I'm too specific and I post too much specific detail about the coming year's classes down to like the granular stuff, then people get really attached to that. And if I decide to change anything, they get a little stressed out. So I've learned not to say too much because of the fact that I've learned that people get really attached, and I do like to have the freedom to kind of modify my plans and change things as I go, and sometimes that happens. So I'm going to keep it up at like the high level so that I don't lock myself into too much of the minutia. That's right. Teresa, Alexis posted in the group today about tools. Alexis, if you wouldn't mind just answering the question. It's very shortly if they haven't shipped already, but Alexis can give you the deets on that. Well, and I have to, it's true. Yeah, if you want to stay enrolled, you just keep going. The only thing you would change if you want to stay enrolled is if you know you want to stay enrolled for the whole upcoming year, and you want to buy the year up front, because I think you save $100 if you do that. So some people were like, I want to go month to month in 2020 and then see how I go, and if I really like it and I know I want to do the whole year of 2021, then I'll change to the annual membership. So some people do that, or they get their annual membership as a gift, or they decide to do it on quad pay or something like that. So that's the only reason people change anything. You'd have to go into the system and set yourself up as an annual versus a monthly is the only change. Yeah, Rena, thank you for that. She said, as a recovering control freak, I appreciate that you have us go with the flow. It's really true. But, for me, I've had to learn that, right? I'm a Leo. It's just very fixed fire energy. And so I've had to really learn how to be flexible. And one of the things I've learned teaching online spiritual classes in particular, as opposed to leadership classes, which are a little more cut and dried and defined, which is what I taught for the 15 years before I started Sage Goddess. So as a coach, I could be a little bit more defined and stick to a defined curriculum and subject matter. But here, what's happening in the world, what's happening in our community impacts the teaching and vice versa. And so there's a little bit of having to be present to, this is what I was teaching you about. Do you guys remember this? Was it last month or month before? We were talking about case in point teaching. That's my methodology. So case in point teaching means I'm going to be teaching you right now, but if someone were to have an emergency in the feed, I would acknowledge it. Do you know what I mean? Because what's happening at all times is part of the teaching. It's happening for a reason, in other words. If you believe in that, then that's called case in point methodology. And I've always adhered to it in my teaching because it's reflective, and it means that the students matter, and it means that I may not know exactly how to design a class for every person, and so I have to be open to changing and being flexible and not so rigid. That's for me what it is. I love that. Morgan's asked me what I've learned about myself delivering this content. The biggest thing for me, Morgan, this year, and I'm grateful for that. Hopefully you don't mind me taking a minute to answer, but I will say session 1 has begun. I usually ring a bell at the beginning. I think for me, as I get my smudge on, I smudged earlier today, but I want to smudge again. At the beginning of this year, I think I both knew and did not know what was coming in terms of the pandemic and the energy and all of that. And I think I knew there was going to be radical change. I don't think I knew the extent of it, but I had seen bits and pieces of all of this in Journey, right? So it wasn't that much of it didn't throw me that much off center. What I've learned is mostly how not to be reactive. That has been my big learning and my big lesson for the year. And I mean that across my life. You know what I mean? Like, when the pandemic was announced and kids couldn't go to school anymore, I, in the past, would have been more reactive to that. That would have caused me a lot of stress. What am I going to do? You know, how am I going to go to work? You know, what's this going to look like for them? How are they going to learn? And I remember just being very calm, just going, okay. My mantra has been, this is where I am. This is where I am, right? And this is who I am, and this is what I have, and this is what I know. And kind of just being present to what is without trying to predict what's going to happen or how I'm going to react to it or am I going to be okay or what does this mean for you or any of that. And that's normally my MO. Alexis and I were talking today because there's a lot of different things about my teaching and my experiences online in general this year that have shown me my own growth. And I hope you've seen that too. Have you seen it? Have there been circumstances that have come up for you this year where you were like, wow, you know what? I would have behaved very differently in that situation a year ago, and look at me now. Or somebody sends something to you, or you read a memo from work, and it bothers you, it throws you off your center, and all of a sudden you're able to get back on course, and you're like, good on me, man. I think I can manage that. So, well, it's interesting. Weta said, it is what it is. Let me say this. My mom says it is what it is a lot, and it used to drive me up the farkin' wall, okay, because I was just like, no, it isn't what it is. It is what you believe it is. Like, where is your power, woman? And it makes me happy to see you guys in the feed. Look at that. How you guys are seeing it. Because here's the thing. I can tell you I see it. I do see it in you. I 3,000% see it in you. And in most of your cases, I've seen it again and again and again and again and again. You've been consistently showing up in this new way. And every time I see it, it just sends a little shiver up my spine, right? I'm not sure so much that it is what it is. I think it is what it is different from this is where I am. Because from where I am, I can shift my perspective of what is. And then it is as I believe it is. It is as I allow it to be, right? So I feel more like it isn't what it is as I perceive it. And once I acknowledge that, like, I'm here, this is where I am, I'm here to do this. I'm here to ride this wave. I'm here to tackle these challenges. I'm here to witness you through it. I'm here to witness myself through it. I'm here to support this team. I'm here to be this partner to this man. I'm here to parent these children. I'm here to parent these parents that I have, right? I guess it is what it is now. You know what I mean? And I'm here for it. I showed up here for it. I said yes to this. One of the most important things I hope you've taken away from this year, and for me, this is the ultimate learning. And again, I can see evidence of it in myself. I will say, I'm not where I want to be yet. I still, every year I'm like, you know what, you're doing great, Athena, but you still need to grow here, here, and here. Like I can show you all of my challenge areas and where I still need to get better. There's always room. And I'm lucky because I have teachers who tell me, every when I ask them for feedback, they will tell me, these are the 3 things you're doing really well, and these are the 3 places I think you're still challenged. But they always will say right after that, but you know what, you're working on it. So, which is great. That's all you can say. I think you've gotten to a really powerful place in this work. When you finally realize, don't make me cry, Morgan. Already looks like I'm crying out of one eye. I only have an allergy on this side. Isn't that weird? This eye's okay. I'm a one-eyed crier. You will know you have come to the pinnacle of this work, in my opinion, when you finally realize it isn't about anybody else. That's when I really think that you get the cap and the gown and all of the, regalia and they play the graduation song. When you finally realize that it isn't about anybody else but you. You know, people say it's not about you. It's actually only about you. And not in a selfish, egotistical, you know, personal way. I don't mean it that way. What I mean is, your challenges are your challenges. The person you're having a challenge with was put on your path to challenge you to grow. But they're not a problem. They're an offering to you. Like, hey, and they're also a way to gauge your progress. Like, hey, you know what? I didn't fall for it this time. Could have gone down that path. I saw that one coming. And I didn't do the same thing this time that I always do. That's a good question. This is my masculine side. Yeah. Interesting. The masculine weeps. Wasn't that what that card was about today? Isn't that weird? Remember the card, the duality card, where the masculine was weeping and the feminine was like coming up next to him to kind of whisper in his ear? That was my favorite card from today. Maybe there's something in that for me. Thank you for that, Janet. I will. I'll make a note of that. I really appreciate it. I think that's the main. When you get to that point, and you realize that it's all just a reflection. It's just a reflecting pool. And I think if you can figure that out before you die, because what I think, if I'm right at all, okay, if I'm right at all, I think the minute you die, you realize all this is true. Like instantly, like, oh my God, that's what that was. I was down there taking all of that so seriously every day, and that's what that was. And it wasn't about where I lived or what I had or what I looked like or, you know, how I got along with my mom, or which turns out not to be my mom. It turns out to be this big spirit that's also been my sister and my aunt and my brother and my husband and my dog and my, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the moment. And so if you can get to that awareness now while you're alive, I think it makes the whole experience of being alive sweeter, because you'll check yourself. You go, why are you paying attention to that? Why are you letting that bother you? Why are you letting her bother you? You know, she's your mother, but she's also been your brother, and she's been your, you know, a lot of different things to you. Like, it allows you to unhook from things and not take it all so intensely to heart. You know, I think that's when we really can move forward. And once you understand that everybody is just a mirror to you, and they're just here as teachers. Even the ones who put real big challenges in your path, they're just teaching you. They're nudging you, right? They're like, go over here, change some of this, don't do that, be more like this. When you can look at those as gifts and opportunities, and actually say to that person, you know what? Thank you for doing that. At the time, I couldn't see that I needed to look at it from this other perspective, or that I really had some work to do around that. I couldn't see it. So thank you for coming in and kind of, you know, being an agitator, being a disruptor, because it allowed me to see something that I probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. And I didn't enjoy it, but I learned a lot from it, right? The way I know people aren't growing and developing, so there's two sides of the same coin. The way I know people haven't grown and haven't developed is when they're not there yet. When they're still angry, when they're still bitter, when they're still, you know, pointing the finger, when they're still like, yeah, but, you know, and it's like, because for me, there isn't really a yeah, but. And that may sound like tough love. It really may, but there isn't really a yeah, but. It just kind of is. Because I can look personally, if I'm being candid, at every single challenge I've ever faced, and I can see how I either created it or I called it in. And it had to happen in order to either shave something off of me, you know, like a barnacle that wasn't cute and had to go, or it had to just dig in a little bit to my ego, you know what I mean, so that I would bring it down a notch and be a little bit more humble and mindful. There's just a lot of things I can see now that maybe I couldn't have seen. So, you know, conflict is your teacher, pain is your teacher, and I know it's really, really hard. In my own family, this is happening right now. I mean, this isn't even about soulship. Like, can you ever see this in your family? I have a family member who really cannot forgive another family member for things that, I look at and they're not, I mean, I hate that this person was in pain, but they're not like the worst things that's ever happened. But there are a lot to this person, and this person is just completely unwilling to forgive and try to make amends. And probably doesn't have a whole lot of time to do that, And it's just like letting that person have their process. And then when they ask me what I think, it's like, well, I think you have your process, And what I've said to that person is, as long as you're okay, if that anger sits in you and doesn't make you sick, then I'm okay with that. If you can find a place to put that anger that doesn't hurt you, I hope you can, And if you really don't feel like you want any reconciliation there, I'm not going to want that for you. So it's, this can really be challenging when it's in your own family. And this is a person who would never agree with anything that I'm saying to you right now. And it's okay, because we still love each other. But this person would never say that the wounds are teachers, or that the pain is a teacher, or that the conflict is a teacher. This person would say it's a punishment, and the other person has to be punished. It's eye for an eye, right? So when I say everything that I'm saying to you tonight, I do recognize from a really deep place of knowing and experience that there are other ways to live your life. And that's why I call this leadership, and that's why I call this priestessing. Does that make sense? You may listen to what I'm saying and say, well, that's just common sense. Doesn't everybody know that? And the reality is, this is actually a particular view. No. A lot of people would completely, massively disagree. And I would say, okay, please feel free to disagree and live your life in a different way. Yeah, it's really interesting, Morgan, what you're sharing about your dad, right? And Rochelle's saying she's going through that with her daughter and her stepdaughter. It's just a different worldview. And my thing is, however you find peace, if you can find peace holding on to anger and resentment and frustration and sorrow and grief, if you can find peace in there, then that's totally your right to live your life in that way. For me, though, I will say this. I feel like, and you can tell me what you think, and this is all part of our work for tonight as a recap, right? Because this is a lot of the stuff that we've been rolling around together for the last, how many months now? 11 and a half? I think there are a lot of different ways to approach your life, but the options narrow when you're going to be someone who's really committed to a deep spiritual path and a deep leadership path in spirituality, I think. I think the stakes get a little higher. I think the responsibility gets a little stronger to really heal yourself so that you don't end up in circumstances where you're, projecting onto other people stuff that's unhealed in you. You know what I mean? So I have felt like I'm personally obligated, because of my role, to get better, to see my patterns, to work through them, to understand why they're happening, to be able to knock myself out of it, not needing someone else to tell me, you know what I mean? I feel an obligation to do better, because I wouldn't want to go through my professional work in this realm putting my stuff on people. I just wouldn't want to be in that position. So I feel like I have a specific responsibility to do more work and to release some of that stuff. But a lot of people don't feel like they have that responsibility, and that's okay too. I'm loving your thoughts. And Tanya says, well, we really do start to heal on a deeper level when we can see what we contribute or learn from a situation. And there's always a duality there. Anytime you're in conflict, there's some learning for you, or you wouldn't have been in the conflict in the first place. And that's some of the conversations I've been having in my family lately. It's like conflict can't sustain itself. It has to have duality to hold it. There have to be two people fighting. You can't watch a fist fight with one person. When they punch the air, they have to have somebody to fight with, or it won't sustain itself, right? And so I'm noticing that too. It's like, if you walk away from the fight, it can't sustain itself. So if you're in a fight, it means you're sustaining it, and then you have to look at, why are you sustaining it? Are you there to learn? Are you there to prove something? Are you there to heal? What's the work that's happening there? Yeah, this is really interesting, isn't it? So forgiveness is big, compassion is big, self-awareness is big in this work for me. It's true, Lena. It's all the Hermetic principles. It's cause and effect. And if you don't and no energy before it's time. You know, like, and that's the other big part of this too. Some people may not be ready for this, and that's okay too. I'm sure there was a time in my life when I wasn't ready for it, and I resisted it a lot along the way too. I feel ready for it now, but I mean, I'm almost 50 years old, for F's sake. You know, like, if I wasn't ready now, it's like, when am I going to be ready? So, yeah, and I tried not to use the word trigger too much this year in here, because it's like, the trigger becomes a trigger. If you say something's a trigger, then it's like, it is a trigger. I want some more romance lighting a little bit. Anyway. I like that. Karen Carley said, you are the writer and director of your movie. If you don't like the scene, what can you do to change it? And then your manifestation skills, you know, have to, look at that, Lauren. I mean, that's huge, right? She said, through this, I've gotten to such a chill place. I take nothing personally, hold no grudges, and let it flow. That's graduation day. I mean, in my personal opinion, that is graduation day. When you're not holding anything, when you take responsibility for your part, when you, agree to release, allow, and fulfill. I'm sure. I can't wait for my 50s, honestly, Hillary. My 40s have been fun, but, like, I think it's even going to get better. Yeah, and Lauren said she wasn't ready before this year, but she's super ready now. I mean, I see it in you. It's true. And then Karen said, as leaders, we set the example. We have to set the tone. And this is the other part that I want you to take away from this year. You're going to make mistakes. There's no way not to. I mean, I feel like I make mistakes every day. At least I can laugh about them, right? You're going to have your intuition to guide you. You're going to do the best you can. You're going to ask your spirit guides to support you and try to work from an embodied, loving place, and you will still really mess up. You're going to mess up as a parent. You're going to mess up as a coworker. You're going to mess up as a friend. You're going to mess up as a mentor. You're going to mess up as a mentee. You're going to mess up. And so creating space for that. In fact, just knowing it's coming so you don't get so blindsided by it, And the more I think you're willing to say, I am going to make mistakes, I'm going to do my best to make them right and to learn from them. I think if you do that, you almost head off a lot of the possible mistakes you might make. I think you actually end up avoiding a lot of them. Lauren, I'm a Virgo. I'm going to do everything perfectly. That's what Dave would say. Only you make mistakes, Athena. I, of course, do everything perfectly. And then you gotta laugh and have a dance party. Have a little Blue Lotus tea, CTFO. Do you? Okay, so let me show you, gosh, it's like, where do we even begin? We have so much. So let's talk about let's start with the shadow work piece, and let's talk about the 12th step of acknowledgement out of the 12 that we've done this year, and then we'll review the 12. So we're going to do these worksheets first. We're just going to talk about them, right? So this is acknowledgement number 12, I heal it. And then we're going to go to these worksheets, which are the summary of the year. And this is kind of the long packet. And I'm just going to be asking you the questions, offering some perspective, Yeah. Look at that. I love it. Honestly, your comments are just a blessing to read. It's really cool. I'm trying to stay focused. I won't be able to comment on all of them, but I'm seeing a lot of them, and it's really exciting. Oh, thanks, you guys. Okay, so let's talk about healing it first. And as you recall, it has taken us 11 other steps to get here. We didn't just go from acknowledge it to heal it. We had to do a lot of other stuff along the way. So that's why I want to recap it, because at some point you will have a friend or a client or a family member who says, I'm ready to get better. I see these patterns in me. I see what I've done. I want to fix my marriage, or I want to fix my relationship with you, or I want to I want to get better, you know? And at some point, it's nice for you to have a framework to say, well, there's actually a series of steps that you can go through. So let's ask these questions, and you can share these questions with that person. I mean, I assume you're here to learn and eventually at some point to teach or share or guide. And maybe you adapt these, which I think you should as a teacher. I think taking content and making it your own is how you bring concepts to life for people and really make it engaging. So I would love for you to actually take these acknowledgement steps and maybe make some tweaks and tunes to them and refine them and make them your own. Or you can just take it as it is and share it and make it, weave it into as part of your practice as a teacher. Either way is great. So with this final step of the acknowledgement process, we are cultivating love, compassion, and forgiveness, which is what we've been talking about for the last, minutes that we've been together, for myself and those around me, because the 12th house is ruled by Pisces, and Pisces is the most compassionate sign. I mean, empathic to the point of, right, sometimes too much with Pisces. They just feel all the things. They feel all of your things. They feel all of their things. I'm raising one, so I know. Raising a teenage Pisces is a particularly karmic gift. We'll see how I survive it. So with this final step, Pisces rules this 12th house, and we look at archetypes of wholeness and unity, which is why I chose Isis and Osiris to be our guides for this month, and I'll tell you a little bit about them tonight too before we're done. Pisces in the 12th house teach us this, and really hone in and listen to this. And by the way, if you're new, Alexis takes notes so that you can just listen. So you don't have to sit here and take a bunch of notes. You can just enjoy, and then she'll post the notes for you later. Everything is okay just as it is. Everything is okay just as it is. They help us to connect with Source and our spiritual nature. They remind us that time and space as we know it are just an illusion, right? Which is true. Nothing, again, that's why I said, try to learn this now, because the minute you close your eyes for the last time here and you open them wherever else you will be, you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe I thought that was all real. I thought time was real. I thought all those things were important, right? We let it all go here. This is the final step associated with the last sign in the house in the zodiac. We come full circle. We can see and understand much more than before. Instead of finding problems to solve, how many of you are experts at finding problems to solve? Or let's take it a step further. I don't know if raising a teenage Virgo is worse or not. Creating problems to solve. What I see a lot of people do, and again, I'll use my family as an example. I see people in my family creating problems to solve. And these are grown people. These aren't young children. These are grown adults who sometimes it's almost like they're bored. It's like, why would you do that? Walk me through the thought process of how you thought that was going to work. Because it's not. And I think you know it. And I think you're bored. Might be time for a second job. It's like, what? That's what I'm saying. I mean, I feel like my own world is a playground for some of this stuff. I don't even need to look outside, outside in the outer world to see reflections of this. Instead of finding problems to solve, we now see the fleeting beauty in each moment. Our ability to love unconditionally grows as we forgive ourselves and each other. Pisces is a mystical, imaginative dream sign. It's tuned into other realities, as we know. It's emotionally and psychically sensitive. The Pisces in all of us can be so sensitive that it's hard to stick around and feel it. So we numb out, right? We escape it, we run away, we leave, we block, we la, right, our way out of it. Because it's too hard to feel it. Because feeling it is the work. Sticking around is the work. I always say this, but I have never actually counseled anyone to get a divorce. Because I actually think people press eject too soon. I if I had pressed eject when Dave and I had our major challenge area in our marriage, which is about halfway through it, if I'd pressed eject then, which would have been really easy, I wouldn't have this life, and I couldn't love him more than I do. But we had to go through some stuff. But it would have been really easy to go, oh, this sucks, boop, you know. It just would have been really easy to do that, and I wouldn't have gotten to enjoy the sweetness of what is now. Maybe it would have been sweet some other way, but I was very close to a boop moment, and I'm really glad I didn't, right? So we don't escape, we don't numb out, you know, and we start to learn our numbing modalities. Like I said, some people eat, some people run away, some people drink, some people, you know, wreak havoc in the wake of it, right? Yeah, David and I had a pretty a close moment. We were separated for a tiny bit there. Yeah, and I was pretty open about it. I mean, I shared in our community. I shared on my personal page. This was eons ago, but yeah, he was working too much, and there was a lot of stress on us, and we were in a really difficult part in our lives, and I was having stress at work, and it just was wearing on us, and we were young, and it was too much. And I'm so glad we didn't, because it wasn't about whether we loved each other. It was about whether we were going to allow external circumstances to shatter the core of who we were together, you know. And we finally looked at each other and we're like, this is actually a really good thing we have here. And I love you to death, so let's not do this, you know. But it really took a lot of winding, and ultimately it was just us coming to that realization, and thank goodness that we did, you know. I'm so glad that we did. But that's why, you know, and I share that so that some of you, because the last thing I would want is for people to ever look at my relationship and go, well, she's just got a perfect relationship. Look at that. Look, they just laugh, and, you know, it's just like, nah, no, we've been through a bunch of shit, and we chose to stay together, and I'm glad we did, but we could have walked away. Totally. It's too easy to walk away is my point, you know what I mean? And just like this escapism thing, like, oh, this is hard, I want out. And that's a natural human tendency. This is hard, I want out. This is hard, I want out. And I agree, Karen Carley is saying that the pandemic is a real test on people too. Because right now this is hard and people want out. And another way that people eject, I mean, at the extreme end of things, is suicide, right? And we see that happen sometimes. And that is the most tragic end to the desire to escape and avoid, right? No relationship is perfect, and it takes absolute work and commitment. It has to be a yes, and you have to tune to that yes. Because, you know, the world is the world. Yeah. But we are genuinely happy now. Like, it's not, we don't put on a show. I mean, sometimes it just drives me up the fucking wall, you know what I mean? And makes me mad, and I don't want to talk to him and stuff like that, but, you know, we still kiss each other goodnight. So it's love that matters. Pisces knows this and knows we're all one. As our ego separateness becomes less important, we experience deeper unity with each other in life. Ultimately, we heal by returning to our natural state of balance, connection, and enlightenment. And what's interesting is, this is the story of Isis and Osiris. You know, Osiris was the, you know, king of Egypt at the height of its prosperity, and his brother was jealous. And so his brother did everything in his power, Set did, to separate Isis and Osiris and to destroy Osiris. I mean, it was everything he could do, right? Don't make me laugh. Barbara is his naughty, alter ego sister, bad assistant. But that's what happened. Set tried to destroy them, right? And to try to destroy their union and try to destroy his leadership, and because he was jealous. Because Osiris was the chosen one. And at the end of that story, of course, Isis and Osiris reign together once again. What brings them together? It's amazing how much of tonight is actually all wrapping in on itself. Do you see the theme? Just like Dave and I had to really commit to recommit, right? And to really be in that partnership and say, this time we're never going to go through this again, because we really know this is where we want to be. Isis and Osiris had to do the same thing. Isis had to hunt for the 42 pieces of her husband's body that Set chopped him into after that banquet, right? Went bad. And she had to say, I want him. I'm going to hunt the entire country of Egypt until I find him and put him back together, and I will rule with him again. I mean, it was her singular focus. And actually, it was also her training and her wisdom and her knowledge of the alchemical arts that allowed her, through the wisdom of the Book of the Dead, to breathe life into her beloved, right? I mean, that was the alchemy. The alchemy was reviving Osiris after the attack from his brother. Yep, it's true. So anyway, it's all related. But my hope is, because so much of the energy of Isis and Osiris is love and commitment and magic and union and integrity and divine love and compassion and recognizing the core of what it is that you desire to create. That's what Isis is, right? I think journeying with Isis and Osiris this month at week 3 is going to, especially because we're journeying during that portal week, the Aquarian portal. And again, I didn't line that up. I'm telling you, there's so much magic. There's a lot of magic in Soul Shift that comes through us, but we aren't conscious of it. How many times have things lined up this year where it's like, how did that even happen, right? It happened so many times this year. So let me figure out how to light myself so that you can see me, but it's not too much. So many times it lined up. And so it's happening again. That Aquarian portal that's happening during that 3rd week of December is when you and I are going to be journeying with Isis and Osiris. And I don't think that's an accident. Yeah. Oh, I see you guys. And I will tell you, the family challenges, I think, are such a drain on our psychic field. It's such a drain on our energetic resources. So those of you who are having family challenges, and I say this from a place of experience, make sure you're really nourishing and feeding yourself energetically right now, because you're holding a lot. You know what I mean? Oh my God. And Hillary, that amulet, I mean, I let Spirit choose, but I was very delighted with Spirit's choice. To work with the Eye of Horus. And each one, I'm sure you know this, but Isis and Osiris, Horus is their sun, and each one, Isis is the moon and Osiris is the sun. And then in alchemy, Osiris is sulfur and Isis is mercury, and they produce salt, right? So there's all these alchemical correspondences with this too. But each one of Horus's eyes represents the sun and the moon, because it's his mother and his father, right? All the symbolism of all of that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the questions on this month's sheet, I think, are really worthwhile for you to maybe do some journaling around. The first one is it hard for you to accept people as they are? Is that hard for you? It used to be really hard for me. I really used to see people for who I wish they could one day be. And then I would get frustrated with them that they weren't that. And that's the ultimate projection. In my mind, I was like, well, but I see their potential. And it's like, okay, but you also have to see who they are today. If you just look at someone and are just waiting for them to become something else, and I think people go into relationships and marriages like that too. I like him, but I do hope that one day he's more blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that game doesn't work. If he does change, you'll be super duper lucky. But he's not going to change just because you're sitting around waiting for it to happen and conjuring something. That old trick doesn't work. And then the second one is, what are 1 or 2 things you wish people did differently? An interesting question. What do you wish people did differently? I have to say, for me, it's not, there isn't something specific that I wish people would do differently, other than just learn what I shared with you at the beginning. That is the one thing I really wish I could communicate to people and have them receive with some clarity, is at the end of the day, this isn't about you. And so if you look at every situation in your life, I wish people would stop looking at situations in their life and seeing it only as about them. And rather than seeing it as an opportunity for them to learn, grow, and adjust. That I wish. Do you do those things the way you wish others did? I try. Sometimes I fail. I mean, like I said, I fail every day. So There are times where I'm not able to walk that talk because it's very difficult to do, because you still are human, you still have an ego, you do. I mean, at the end of the day, when somebody says something shitty about you, it hurts your feelings because you're human, and you're in a body with a heart and a mind that overthinks things, and you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, can I say, oh, nothing ever bothers me and I never get hurt and it all is just like water off a duck's back? I mean, I wish that was the case, but still, I'm human and I have human things. Yeah, I wish people would stop competing with each other too. I really do. But then that's an evolution for me too, frankly. It's really an evolution. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody really can compete with anybody else. Somebody was interviewing for a job at Sage Goddess, I don't know, a month or two ago. It was not a great interview. Everything the person said was so counter to like my philosophy. They were trying to tell me about what they thought Sage Goddess was, and I was like, ooh, that's not what we are. But we ended up having this really interesting conversation about all the things that I'm telling you about today. And the person looked at me and said, so who's your competition? Who's the competition for Sage Goddess? And I looked at her and I said, oh, we don't have any. And she said, what? You do. I looked them up. And I said, oh, you mean other people who sell crystals? Oh, yeah, well, there's those. And she's like, well, what did you think I meant? And I said, nobody else is me. So I don't think I don't look at people as competitors. I look at people as doing their own thing, and maybe they do something similar to me, but it's not the same way I do it. And she was like, well, but people teach online classes. People teach crystal healing. People sell crystals. And I was like, yeah, but they're not me. And she just looked at me like I had two heads. And I was like, I don't know that this interview is going very well. I mean, I hope it didn't sound narcissistic, but I was just like, no, I mean, I don't see myself. That's why I don't feel very when somebody shows their stuff or talks about stuff. Now, that wasn't always the case. I remember in the early days I would be nervous, like, oh, are they doing exactly the same thing I'm doing? And people have tried over the years. And now I'm just like, even if they do, it's not quite the same. So who cares? Let them do it. Wish them good luck. There's more than enough in the universe for everybody, right? But again, that's my own evolution and growth too. And no one's you. No one will ever be you. You could give someone in your life. I mean, think about this. Those of you who cook a lot. I cook a lot. Candace cooks a lot, right? Candace, I could build a house next to yours, give someone the same crock pot, Instant Pot, ingredients, recipes. I could give them the whole shebang. I could ask her to cook a meal and you to cook a meal and give you both the same recipe and sit down, and I would have very different dinners. Because Candace's energy is different, and the way she puts the ingredients together might be different, and the way she seasons her food might be different, right? Like, every single thing about you is unique to you. And that's the other thing. People don't react well in life when they feel threatened, right? If you can't be threatened because you're not threatenable, because you just don't participate in that, you take the stinger out of everything. And then again, it's like it doesn't bother you. It's like, well, okay, okay. You are it. You are it. I wouldn't want to have a cook-off with Candace because I think she's a better cook than I am, frankly. I have seen her posts, and I think she has more skills in that department than I do. But I'm just saying, we could do the same recipe, it would be totally different. Right. That's exactly right. Everyone is unique. That's this month. So how do you heal your shadow? If that's ever a question that you're asked, well, how do I heal my shadow? I get asked that question all the time. You heal it by finally recognizing that there is only one. We go back to our Hermetic wisdom and our Hermetic principles, right? Well, you know what? And BK, I've had that experience too, because some people want to get under your skin, and it's like when they realize they really can't get under your skin, it's like that's annoying for them. They're looking for something that you're not offering, right? You heal it by recognizing that we are all one here, which means if I have a shadow, so do you. If I can be shitty, you can be shitty. If I can be annoying, you can be annoying. We're the same. So I don't have to be embarrassed about mine or hide mine or pretend like it isn't real, and you don't have to be embarrassed about who you are and hide yours and pretend like it isn't real. There's nothing that you could ever tell me about you, truly, that would make me go, oh wow, well in that case, I don't think I can work with you. I mean, aside from like heinous crimes and such things, but I'm talking like basic shadow stuff. No. Oh, but I get really angry. Oh, really? Ooh, I get really jealous. Ooh, I get really resentful, and it turns into, it's like, There's nothing you can really tell me that would really scare me off that much. But that's because I've decided that my own stuff's okay too. But there are people who are very scared of their shadow, don't want to look at it. And so they're not going to be able to hold yours either. And so if you show them some of your anger or some of your shadow, they'll run away. Have you been in relationships like that before? The first time they see something out of you that isn't in alignment with what they think is your perfect personality, they run. Why does that happen? Because the first time they see something in themselves that isn't in alignment, they're going to run. And so if they see it in you, hits so close to home that they have to run too. And that helps explain ghosting. A lot of times people are like, well, I don't understand why that friendship ended, or, I thought, there was unconditional love, and the minute I showed who I really was, that person ran away. And it's like, because they're not ready to look at who they really are. And you're a living invitation to do that. And for the right person, you're going to be inspiring, and you're going to help them grow, and you're going to by your example, you're going to bring them to a new level of conscious awareness. For the wrong person, you are scary AF, because you remind them that at any minute something could fly out and terrify them. And they've been sitting on that suitcase trying to keep it closed for too long. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I hear you. Terry said, I feel like I have so much shadow that it's overwhelming sometimes to look at it. But I think you still should. And especially, in a context where you're invited to do that without any shame. Because the reality is we all have it. Nobody doesn't have it. The biggest mistake you can make in life is assuming that people don't have it. And then you have to create space for people to have it, so you don't judge it or run away when you see it and all of that, right? Not easy, but worth it. This is the core of the work that we're doing. So let's move over to this set of worksheets. This is your summary of the year worksheets, and we're going to go month by month. And again, just walking through some of the questions. People are people, so why should it be a little Depeche Mode lyrical guidance for us tonight? But it's true. We have to let it be. I mean, this is what I believe to be true. This isn't what everybody believes to be true, but this is my worldview. Morgan said, I think I alienate myself a little in the real world. I probably do too. I mean, I'm quite discerning with my real world relationships, because I'm just very aware of what people can handle and what people can't. So, and I think that's okay. And 2020 has been a year of reclusiveness anyway. A lot of us are a little bit more hermited this year. I kind of like that I have to be online all the time, because it keeps me from really hermiting in, because I could really hermit in. If I wasn't, constantly having to be present and in public, I probably would really hermit up. So in a way, it's helpful for me. Me too, Pamela Walsh. Okay, so let's go back to January. Let's rewind the clock. Entering the space was our theme for January. The sub-theme was light and illumination, and our guide was Danu. Do you remember that? One of the primordial goddesses, right, from the Celtic pantheon. Super powerful mother goddess. Holds the chalice of the world, her womb, right? And so this was about bringing light through the elements. Do you remember all of that? And we did a lot around elemental learning this year. We're going to continue to talk about the elements next year, but we really just learned this year, hopefully through the content, what kind of priestess you are, what your primary element is, and then what kind of wings you have, which are your secondary and tertiary elements. And so we talked a lot in that month about how to... we hadn't gotten to the acknowledgements yet, by the way. So that was about emergence, how to enter a space, how to bring light, right? Doesn't it seem like another lifetime? Again, because it's pre-pandemic, it's like, seems like a different world in January. I know. In February, we moved to emergence, right? Emerging from within, tending the inner fire. And we worked primarily with Mary Magdalene that month. We also worked with Freya. Less so the Morrigan. I was going to work with the triple goddesses at the outset, but it seemed like too much. Maybe we can come back and revisit Morrigan next year, which I would like. And so we talked a lot about how you manage energy as an empath, and how you hold your energy as an empath without taking on other people's stuff, which moves into the realm of dysfunctional relationships, right? Codependence. And that's really the line. That's really the line that priestesses have to walk. We need to help people, but we can't be codependent. We can't take on their problems for them. That isn't our role. We're not here to be their mother. We're not here to be their sister in a literal sense. You know, we're not here to shoulder and bear the burdens of the family. We're just here to witness and hold the space for others to come up to their own conscious level of awareness, their highest evolutionary form, right? So, and we talked a lot, how do you do that? A lot of times people want you to fix them. And I've had a lot of people get frustrated with me because I can't and won't fix them. I mean, I can't, which is why I won't. It's not like I'm holding out like, well, I could fix you, but I'm not going to. But that's codependence. It's like, no, but I want you to come and take my problems on. I mean, they're not saying this consciously, but subconsciously it's like, no, I want you to come and take these problems from me so I never have to deal with them again. And here, I'll give you some money to do that. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. So it's about learning also in the context of managing energy, how you hold boundaries, because you want to be loving and open and available to people and accessible. And I believe in total transparency, you know, I mean, I really, because for me, like, I can't work with a teacher that I feel like I don't know. If I feel, I had one teacher for a while and just would not share any details about her life or her past or her childhood or even her partnership or anything. It was like very hard boundary there. And I finally said, you know, I can't really work with you because I need to know who you are. I mean, I don't have to know nitty gritty, nuts, bolts, details, but like high level, I got to know a little bit about your story, because if I can't find myself in your story, it'll be hard for me to share all the details of mine. It's just, you know, it doesn't, for me, I don't work that way, right? But, you know, she was on the like absolute extreme end of like, no, there's a boundary and I'm not going, you know, you're not going to know me, so we're not going to be codependent. And that way I'm just helping you, but you know, that kind of thing. It's a pretty traditional thing. I mean, you see it in a lot of helping professions where there's just a really hard line about not having any personal dialogue, right? But I think it is really helpful for people to get to know you. At the same time, I do think you have to find a way to have a boundary so people don't expect that you're going to come in now and just fix it. Even if you could, you shouldn't, right? That isn't your role. And so that we were defining boundaries and roles that month. And then we came to March. Reviewing and renewing commitments. And we talked about soul contracts in March. We worked with Parvati, and we were talking about union then too. And we were in that particular context, we were talking about love and we were talking about lineage. And we're going to be doing a lot more work with lineage in 2021. But some of the work we're going to be doing with lineage in 2021, for the first time ever, we're going to be doing more looking at your genetic line. We haven't really done that work. I will say just 2 seconds about that really quick. A lot of you are hungry to know more about next year anyway, so I'm giving you like little tidbits, even though I can't give you the whole enchilada right now. But one of the things we're going to look at next year, I had this conversation with Dave a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I really have this belief, because for some people, I'm using the example of the masks with the epidemic, okay? So just go with me for the ride for a second. And I said, some people really struggle with wearing a mask, right? Even for like 5 or 10 minutes. Truly, they really struggle with it. They don't want to do it. They don't like it. They feel like someone's telling them what to do. It feels really hard and burdensome for them. And it's not comfortable, right? Like, I don't love wearing a mask, but I do it. And in California, we're legally required to do it. So I was like, have you noticed that some people, like, they just do it, right? And then some people can't. It's like almost like they can't do it. They cannot stand to be uncomfortable. It just drives them nuts physically. And then some people don't want to be told what to do, right? And I said, I wonder for the people who see it's a struggle, it's a different issue. If you don't feel like you want to be told what to do, that's a different issue. But if you feel like it's a physical struggle, and some people really do, I said, I said to Dave, I come from people who literally survived war, famine, disease, loss of children. Both of my grandmothers, like just like the worst, right? Complete devastation, entire village bombed, no place to live, absolutely no food to feed their children. Like I come from that. I'm one generation away from that, right? And I said, I think on some level the epigenetic piece is really critical and helps you understand people. Because there's nothing in my life that I look at as a struggle. Even having MS and being in ridiculous pain sometimes and putting on a farking mask and all of those things, I just do it. And there's something in me that is like, I'm still really lucky. You know what I mean? I have a house to live in. I have food to eat. I have a way to earn a living. You know what I mean? I have my husband. He's not off to war. I don't have 6 kids I can't feed. So there's some part of me in my bones, is this making sense? Epigenetically, right? That doesn't see this time in my life as a struggle. And so I move through it differently, I think, sometimes than people who epigenetically have not had any struggle in the last, 6 or 7 generations, right? And so for them, this may look really hard, authentically, right? Like, oh my God, I have to wear a mask. This is like the worst thing that ever happened to them. And epigenetically, this time may be the worst thing that's ever happened to them. So you have to look kind of compassionately at people, right? Like, instead of getting mad, like Dave was getting really frustrated with one of the construction workers who, kept taking his mask off outside. And he was just like, you got to put your mask on, dude. And I was like, and he was like, it's so hard for me to do it. And I was like, this honestly for him genetically could be the hardest thing he's ever had to do. In his bones, you know what I mean? Like for us who've, family's been through war in recent generations, this looks like kind of a cakewalk, relatively speaking. Like Millie said, it becomes like muscle memory. And so we're going to be looking more at that stuff next year. And I'll tell you why. And I'm going to spend some time on it. And I'm going to give you worksheets to write out your family tree. And we're going to look at certain traumatic experiences that your family line has had. And if you don't know a lot, you can ask your family members who are still alive and get some insight. And the reason we're going to spend some time on this, what I've realized is that's your alchemy. This year was like starting to understand the context, right? Like how these things work, how they're involved in healing some of your subconscious issues. Like we were right on the surface of a lot of things. But next year I want to go down into the underbelly and really look at like, what's your stock? You know what I mean? And then I'm also going to have you plot. I'm going to have you do a journey with me. And I think this is either January or February. I'm going to have you do a journey with me. And after the journey, I'm going to ask you to do the same family tree, but for your spiritual lineage. What have you been through in your spirit lives that also might explain part of this broader epigenetic picture? So at the end of that month, you're going to have your physical material lineage chart, and you're going to have your spiritual lineage chart, and then you're really going to understand this is why I am who I am. And you can bring that knowledge to bear so that you understand yourself better, and you can have greater compassion for other people who have had different experiences, right? Reed, I think there are people who haven't been through as much challenge over the last 5 to 6 generations. Everybody's been through some because, everybody here is an immigrant, right? And those who were here before all of us, were robbed of their rights and their land and their resources in every single way. So it's a great question, Emery, because everybody has struggled on some level. Some people haven't struggled as much. And so for some people, it was a little more distanced, you know what I mean? And some people, it's been 4 or 5 generations since they struggled, which makes it more of a distant memory. If it was in your grandparents' generation, that's real close to you. That's at the edge of your fingertips. That's in your lifetime, relatively speaking, right? And so when it's that much hair's breadth, is that the saying, close to you? It's a little bit different. Yeah. Well, then, Francine, this is going to be interesting for you because then it's going to be a lot more based on your journeys and your intuition and what you can sort of gather from your spiritual, visibility into what you've been through. So anyway, that's kind of where we're going with some of that. So we're going to take, that's why I'm saying next year is like the double click on this year, because we did a little bit of this year, but not to the extent that we're doing it next year. And then I want to try to use that as a framework to understand for the rest of the year how you've gotten where you are. And then I want you to look at your partner. I want you to think about your kids. Now they're one more generation removed. So what can you do, right, to help them? They're going to feel it less than you, which in theory means they're going to struggle with things you struggle with slightly less than you. It's one more remove, right? So anyway, I will guide you through all of this. You don't have to worry about it now. Team SG is actually building the January worksheets right now and designing the family trees and everything. So it's actually really exciting to see it all come together. All my ancestors struggled. I mean, up until my mom and dad. And I struggled in the early part of my life, right? So again, if it's not that far away from you, it explains a lot. In April, we moved on into birthing your vision, which is about, we worked with Hermes, remember? That starts to seem more in this timeline, right? This starts to seem more present. And we were talking about how you birth a vision, how you manifest a vision, how you bring a vision forward. That was the first month we did the acknowledgements. And the first acknowledgement was, I face it. I face it. And that's why I said you can't go from I face it to I heal it. You have to do all these other steps in between. Just saying, I know this is my shadow, you know, I have anger issues, which isn't my issue, but you know, let's say it is. I have anger issues. Now I'm going to heal it. It's not like that. The other 10 steps in between those steps are really important. That's an interesting question. Valerie said, do you think if I rewatch all the lessons from this year next year, would I still get the same spiritual benefit? I can only tell you, because it would just be my perspective. I can tell you that students of mine have gone back and watched classes from like 5-6 years ago, and they say they're still relevant and applicable. Which sometimes surprises me. I'm like, really? That was such a long time ago. Like, and now it's like a different paradigm, different timeline. So it seems like a million miles away. So I don't know. I think you'd have to maybe try one and see. But it's a very interesting question. April was when Chloe joined. Isn't that cool? So we started out with I acknowledge it. That was our first step. And then in May, we talked about embodiment. We had a little bit of fun in May. Do you remember May? We worked with Ishtar. We got all juicy with our flash tattoos, and we did our henna, and it was right before summer. Again, it seems like 19,000 years ago. It wasn't. And our theme was embodying that wisdom. So how to show your wisdom in your physical body and in your embodiment of your energy. And then this was where we talked about owning it. So you go from acknowledging it to owning it. You know, for me, my biggest shadow is resentment, which can lead to, you know, problems. Because I get resentful. And it's always been my issue. Less so now. I really have to say, I don't think I'm very resentful of anything anymore in my life. I've worked through so much over all these years. But, you know, resentment used to be my thing. I was resentful of my sister. I was resentful of this. I was resentful of that. I was resentful of, you know, blah, 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 blah. So just saying I have resentment and then saying, you know, okay, well, now that I say it, I own it. I'm resentful. That's still not enough, right? Because that's easy to say. Okay, I own it. Great, that's who I am. Now I'm all healed, right? We still have more work to do. In June, we worked on expanding the consciousness, and we worked with Pythia, the Oracle. Remember that? Still seems like a long time ago. And we talked about cultivating your psychic gifts. So we talked about clairaudience and clairvoyance and clairsentience and clairalience and claircognizance. And under that Gemini category in the acknowledgements, we explored it. So what does it really mean to be resentful? What does it really mean to be an angry person? What does it really mean to feel intense jealousy and rage? And what does that really mean? What does it look like for you? Because it could look like something different for you than it looks like for somebody else. And that's part of really getting underneath the hood and not just saying, oh, I own it. But it's like, yeah, but do you even know what it is? Do you know what it looks like? Do you know what you know, triggers it or what encourages it? Do you know what tamps it down for you? Or, you know, reduces it for you? Have you figured all of this out? And then we went into July with our dream work and Morpheus. I loved that. I really did. Because dream time is such a powerful, potent time. Your spirit guides don't have to work so hard to get access to you. And so we talked about replacing fear with courage, and the symbol was awareness. We talked about the union archetypes. Do you remember that? And then we unearthed it. So then we're like, okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to dig this thing up. I'm going to be brave enough to get in there and like I said, get under the hood, really look at what this is, what it looks like, how I show up, and not just leave it there in the closet, but like fully haul it out, take it all apart, let the light of day shine on it. And it felt good to do that in July because it's high summer, right? So we have solar energy in the field to support that work. And then in August, we expressed it with Leo. So then we continued that theme of embodiment, but we moved into multidimensional healing with Kotlikwe, and we did our Aztec healing ceremony, which was my favorite of the year. I have to say, I have a real Aztec connection. It's very powerful. To the point where one day I really want to spend like half my year living in Mexico, somewhere near La Ciudad, so I can be near the original Aztec center of civilization. So we decided to express it. We also learned about palmistry, right, and that energy of your hands, sending and receiving, and we worked with the stones on your fingers. That still seems like a year ago now. So then we gave ourselves permission to express it. Like, okay, well, I'm going to play with this a little bit. What is my expression of resentment or rage or jealousy or, frustration or whatever it is? What is the expression of that? What is the expression of my, for some people, their shadow is, sexual desire or desire to manipulate or desire to control, or it shows up in so many different ways, right? Or just, the complete inability to look at your own stuff, so your shadow looks like just you spewing your stuff onto everybody else, right? And so we were conscious of being careful how we express it, but we needed to let a little of it come forward so that we could clear it, and that's what we did with the Aztec healing ceremony. And then in September, descending into mystery with Demeter and Persephone. That's where we did our Yera Odos. We talked about conflict resolution. That was our main leadership focus that month, giving you some tools and strategies to resolve conflicts, so that you don't need other people to intervene and to do that work for you. That's one way that, as a priestess, you can really help people not engage in unproductive ways, is by giving them the tools and techniques to do the work on their own. A good leader prepares people not to need them. That's the mark of a good leader. If someone's a really good leader, they do not worry about leaving office because they know that they've trained everybody behind them to take it over and run it like they were never there. A bad leader thinks only they can do it the way they can do it and nobody else can, right? So that's ultimately what we were trying to do, is teach you how to create strategies for people to resolve their own conflicts so they don't need you to do it. And then we improved and harmonized our shadow. And harmonizing our shadow means finding what's in it that works. Finding what's in it that works for you. Sometimes when I'm resentful, it's because I really care. You know what I mean? And so I take things so seriously and so to heart, and I want things to be a certain way, that's what fuels my resentment. Okay, well, now that I know that, maybe if I can help myself find those things in a more productive way, then it won't result in me going to this darker place with it. You know what I mean? So it's like learning how to harmonize it, bring it into accordance with the higher vibrational parts of who you are. Joe Rogan had someone on about the story and how the ale she asked to drink when she was parched, that it wasn't wine. I think I may have seen that one, or listened to that one, I should say. I love Joe Rogan. I know he's a little out there, and sometimes his stuff is like too out there for me, but I also really think he's kind of fun. I didn't see Laura's comment. Let me see if I can go back up and see. Oh no. Does she really, Laura? Oh my gosh, that just touched my heart. So much love and blessings to you and your baby. And health. perfect health for her. But I love that she asks for that after her chemo, and that would be really good for her. You know what I mean? That will move through some of the energies of the medicines that aren't in alignment, whatever those are. Obsidian and smoky quartz are my two favorite stones to give to people who go through chemo. So it's actually, she's very intuitive. Like she's automatically gathering and wanting the things that would be in perfect alignment with clearing some of that energy. Kids are so smart, are they not? Like they just know. I think that is so cool. Okay, and then October we went into integrating your power, and we worked with Lilith. And with Lilith, we looked at the parts of you that are unwilling to submit. We agreed to take on the parts of you and look at the parts of you and dialogue with the parts of you that don't want to go along for the ride. You know, the part of you that says, no, that's not good enough for me. That's not what I need. That's not, and which is an important part of you to connect with. Lilith represents, rebellion against systems and structures that aren't in service to her empowerment. And it's her refusal to align with those that ultimately results in the entrance of Eve into the origin story in Christian cosmology, right? So this is about integrating your power and transmuting and integrating your shadow. And you can only do that by recognizing not only what you do want, but also what you don't want, and defining that for yourself, and then being able to integrate that creates deeper power for you. We also talked about change and how you react to change. Is it a threat, or is it something that you can work with? In November, we worked on accessing ancient wisdom, which is down here with Metatron. That was just last month, so that should be relatively close in your rearview mirror. And we accounted for our shadow and we liberated our shadow. So the accounting of it is the final sort of reconciliation, At the beginning of the year, you might have thought you had 20 different things in your shadow that you really had to work with. But as we refined and narrowed and filtered and analyzed, you may have ultimately deduced and boiled it down and said, it's actually more like just these one or two things I really have to work with. So it's a reconciliation. It's an accounting of what's actually there. And then it's the final act of integrating it, allowing it to rest alongside the other parts of who you are. Now, if you're not there yet, that's okay. But I think it's worth struggling a little bit here in these final weeks of 2020. Struggle might not be the right word. I think it's worth engaging in these final weeks of 2020 to really be candid with yourself and say, where am I still not fully in alignment here? Where have I not, acknowledged and accounted and integrated and harmonized? And where have I not dug deep enough to really understand what's going on with me? And how can I do that now so that I don't bring that into, that's why I'm doing this review with you tonight, so that you don't bring that into this brand new year that I think has the potential for such transformation. 5 is the pentacle, right? It's all 4 of the elements balanced by spirit. And is the infusion of spirit into the foundation of the 4, right? So the 4, the cube, it becomes the pentacle. And it's also sort of the nature and structure of creation. And there's such potential in a 5 year. It can go really well or it can go really sour. And a lot of it depends on your intention and the work that you've done in the year before. There's always a foundational year before there's a 5 year, right? So that's really important too, is to make sure that if you're not there yet, if you're like, I'm listening to Athena and I'm like, I think I haven't quite got there yet. It's okay. But I would try to get there before the end of the month. I would really try to do this work now. Go back and, do the old worksheets if you haven't. Dialogue in some writing with your spirit guides. Give your spirit guides. I taught you how to do this in the readings today. You can give your pain a voice. You can give your spirit guides a voice. Ask them to come through your writing or through your typing, or ask them to come to you in dream time with some strategies and some techniques, and ask them to show you gently where it is you still have some resistance. Because we all still have some resistance, right? Yeah. Oh, thank you for that, Melissa. That means the world to me. She said, as a deaf person, she didn't expect to come into the class and have people helping her learn, right? Look at that. And she said she often has felt ignored and that we've rocked it. And thank you. And she said, and Nick too. We really have wanted to. I actually have really enjoyed having you here. And as a teacher, I enjoy the challenge of making sure that my learning environment is good for all learners. And so we took it really seriously. We wanted to create an environment where you felt supported. And so, but I'm really glad that you can see it. That's only as good as your ability to see it in action. So I'm happy to hear that. Okay, so here we land now at December. Celebrating unity, Isis and Osiris, reconciling power, right? Their power was taken from them. They reinstated it with Thoth's help, by the way. And I'll teach you more about that during session 3. It'll be a nice segue, I think, into our alchemical work next year. And so it says, bringing things to a meaningful end is an art. How do you honor closure? And how do you let go with grace? What are your tips and strategies and techniques to let go with grace? Oh my goodness, that is just honestly, your comments tonight have just like been like candy. So thank you. It's really, I mean, I'm always very open to criticism too, but it's so nice to hear how you've grown and how the class has helped you. And one of the biggest compliments is when other people notice it. You know what I mean? Like when your friends or your therapist or your family members say, you know, I noticed that you reacted to that a little differently this time, or you didn't react to that this time, and that's really amazing, right? I know. So that was our quick recap, not so quick recap, but I didn't want to do it too quick. I really wanted to remind you of what this year has been and the arc of this year as we've gone through. And I feel like I said, I feel like this year is part 1 and next year is part 2. Because next year is going to be some of this, but just constantly with an eye to how we can scoop a little deeper, how we can surface something more from the bottom of the ocean, right? Instead of just working at the level of the tide. We had to begin this year here, and we had to go through this process this way. And I also think that it would have been really difficult to do the double click this year because there was so much stress on everybody. I was always mindful. I didn't water down my curriculum at all this year. I could have, I didn't. I chose not to. But I certainly was mindful of not wanting to push you over the edge. I was mindful of that at all times. So, but we made it, you know what I mean? And without sacrificing anything along the way. And here you are. And like I said, I do see you. And I see all the ways that you've come so far. And it's quite remarkable and beautiful to witness it. So I'm very proud of you. Soul Candy. I'm trying to get Candy Martinez to make a business called Soul Candy, but then I don't even know if there already is a Soul Candy, and I also don't know what Soul Candy is. But that came up during our readings today. I do love candy. It's a bad thing. I'm so glad. Well, you guys have been a pandemic lifeline for me too. And Alexis too. I mean, you know, we have gone through this together. It's not like I haven't been in a pandemic alongside you. I sure have. I told you it's like being in childbirth, you know, dilated to 8 centimeters. And then trying to coach the woman next to you to breathe. It's like, well, I gotta help myself. How do I help myself and help you at the same time? I don't know. So, right on, you guys. You did very, very well. And cheers, and cheers, and cheers. Millions of cheers. Diet 7-Up cheers. Mm-hmm. No, I'm like, bring it in, bring it in. Okay. So I'm going to remind you of our symbols now for one final activation. I'm going to tell you, I traced, okay, the ayahuasca ceremony where I received these symbols was in this room. I'm going to try not to cry. And it was on this ceiling. She uses this ceiling as a projector. The ceiling in this room was originally supposed to be painted with some stencils of sacred geometry. And right at the last minute, I declined it. I said no. And Dave was like, well, why though? It's like super plain. I mean, it's just the walls are navy, the ceiling's navy, everything's navy, right? And I said, I think it's going to become a projector screen. And he's like, oh, like LED? And I said, no, like ayahuasca. And he's like, oh. And he's like, yeah, but I mean, you want to leave it blank the whole year so that twice a year you can see what she projects up there? And I said, I do. And so it was on this ceiling that she gave them to me. It really is. I remember I was laying there and I was asking her about Soul Shift this year, as I always ask her about class. I'm thinking about working with her again in a month or so. She's starting to whisper in my ear. I haven't worked with her in a year, so, but I just found out I can do it remotely. I know, which is so crazy, but I have the most amazing shaman, and he knows that I'm too nervous with the pandemic to have him here because he travels, and so he might be willing to do a remote session with me, which is a big deal. He'd be with me on the phone, but it's not quite the same. We'll see what that's like. So I asked her about class, and it is comfy in here. I asked her about class, and I laid back, and I remember closing my eyes, and I started to see some geometry. And so whenever that happens, I open my eyes because then I can usually see the same geometry on the wall or on the ceiling. And so it was pages of a book. So it was like a book that opened, right? And each page was blank, and then she drew the symbol. Like, here's the opening symbol, right? And I was like, oh. And it was so crazy because I had just said the previous ayahuasca to my shaman, I have to have a notebook with me. Like, I have to have a notebook with me. And he's like, Athena, you can't write. Like, you can't, like, what do you, and I was just like, you just need to go with this. I'm writing. And he's like, yeah, but if you're writing the whole time, you're not going to be in your journey. And I said, I'm not going to look at the notebook, but I have to be able to track what she's showing me. Otherwise, I'm going to completely forget. So, no, I did not see that, Rachel. Can you send it again or tag me? Because I would really like to see that. So she drew each symbol and then turned the page. And with each symbol, she showed me other symbols. Like, basically it told me a story about each symbol and what they were. So one by one, the page would turn. Does she talk? Yes, but it's not a voice. Like, it's not audible. I don't know how to explain it to you, but she's in your head. I think it's your higher self. That's my theory. My theory after all these years is that ayahuasca is just your higher self. Without all the barriers to entry, right? So that you aren't like pretending it's just you or like second guessing it or because you can't deny it. I think it's your higher self. I could be wrong. Okay. And so she turned the page again and she drew the emergence symbol and the word and then gave all the other symbols along. I know, I love you guys. Honestly, this is really emotional for me because I do feel like these were a gift. And that's why, when I put my little charm bracelet on, I have not taken it off. Because it's like, oh my God, I have all 13 symbols. I have all 13 symbols. I can have them with me all the time. And then she moved to the love symbol and, of course, to the union symbol. And when she drew them, it was so beautiful. So one by one, and I just tried to keep up. I mean, as best I could. I was drawing as she was drawing. Tonight, I went to draw our last symbol, and I just burst into tears. This is right before class, and my eye was already funky anyway from whatever although it's gone away because I took my Zyrtec finally, so it feels better. I just burst into tears. I was like, I can't believe I'm drawing the closing symbol. Because these aren't really part of the curriculum next year, I mean, I think I'll always use them, and I hope you'll always use them too, and maybe we could find ways to integrate them so we don't leave them behind. Yeah, they call ayahuasca the mother. It is a female spirit, and it's very maternal, and she's like a mother in the sense that she's kind to you, and then in the next second she will just smack you on the behind. She's very hard on you in ayahuasca, on most people. But if she's really hard on you, if she really knocks you off your feet and gives you something real hard to look at that you don't want to look at, in the next minute she gives you something else that's beautiful. It's like she'll show you something and you're like, oh my god, that's horrible, that's horrible. And then it's like flowers in a garden. It's like, ah. Unfortunately, I can't refer you to mine for privacy reasons and for his own safety and well-being. Because ayahuasca is controlled, none of us can share our contacts, which is kind of a bummer. So what you got to do is set the intention and wait for it to come to you. And in my experience, it does. But it's just, if it seems like all of us are really secretive about our people, it's out of the desire to protect them. You know, I hope in my lifetime it won't be like that. But that's why I will not facilitate ayahuasca until it's legal. I just would not do it, because it's just, for me, it's just too scary to be dabbling in things that are not on the up and up like that, and offering that to people, it just freaks me out. What got me into ayahuasca was another shaman who had a hybrid that he worked with, which was really nice, but it wasn't as potent, and so he knew I wanted something stronger, and I wanted one-on-one, and I wanted it private in my house, and so then he connected me to this person. So that's what kind of brought me to this. Yeah, it's not worth it to me. I like my life and the way it is, and I don't want to, jeopardize anything. So I leave it to the other people who are more adventurous. I get real honey badger after ayahuasca. I will tell you where to go and how to get there. But that's how she is. That's how she is. I mean, in ayahuasca, she will literally just be like, you absolutely should not have done that. It was wrong, and you should feel really terribly about that. That was absolutely wrong. And you just have to sit there and take it. And here's all the effects of what you did, and yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And you're just like, it feels like a child being listening to a mom. But in the next breath, she's like, but then this other thing is absolutely amazing. It's just like, okay. But it gives you a chance to sort of own your shit, right? Because in ayahuasca, and the other thing that's tough about ayahuasca, and you have to remember this, is you can't get out of it. When you get into a tough patch, you could end up spending an hour there, and you can't get out. That's what really freaks people out, and you never know. You never know where it's going for 8 hours. It's a ride. Okay, I don't recommend it, honestly, for most people. I think most people can get what they need without ever touching anything. That's why I take you through drum and rattle and breath and all of that. Because I just think for most people it's too much. And it's incredibly taxing and stressful and difficult. But I like to own my shit, so I keep going back for more. I was terrified the first time I tried it. Terrified. Like, tried to back out and cancel. And my shaman was like, I really appreciate that. I'll see you in the morning. I was like, no, I think I'm not going to do it. And he was like, no, we're going to do it. You're fine. I was like, no, but I don't think you understand. And he's like, everybody does this the night before, the first time. You're not alone, sweet one. So today, I'm getting to the end of my story. Yeah, I don't want you to aspire to ayahuasca. It's hard on your body, it's hard on your mind, it's hard on your spirit. Honestly, unless you feel so compelled, I would leave it to others. It's you don't need it for your spiritual work. That's why I'm here bringing stuff through to you. That's why other people do it. It's, you know what I mean? So this is the closing ceremony. So it's a triangle, and when I drew it earlier, I started to cry. But at least I got it out of the way so that maybe I won't cry as much here. So you ready to draw the closing symbol? So it's a triangle that comes down, and then you wrap around. There's different ways to do it. So how was I doing it earlier? I need my pen. There's a way to do it without doubling the lines. Let me remember how I did it, because I didn't print out my sheet with the actual. Let's see. Maybe there isn't a way to do it without doubling the lines. So you can do it either way that feels good to you. thinking there was a way I was doing it that didn't allow me to cross the lines, but not really. So it's, you're coming down with a triangle and around and up. Down, around, up. Down, around, up. When she drew them, it was in the air. It was visual, right? I could see them. It's like the letters emerged, and it was one continuous line. So I've always tried to like create that, and when I'm showing it to you, like the line never lifted. So, but it was like so fast that it was hard for me to track the exact way. So, loop first. That's right. Loop first. Thank you. Okay, let me try that again. So down. That's right. That's right, because in the opening symbol, it's the other way. So you loop up. That's right. So on the opening symbol, because the closing symbol is the reverse of the opening symbol, right? So on the closing symbol over here, you go up, down, so it's loop first, and then on the closing symbol, it's the opposite. So it's loop first, and then like that. Do you see how they're the reverse of each other? And so triangle first works too. It worked for me downstairs. I was in one continuous line downstairs, and all of a sudden I came up here and I'm like, wait, how did I do that again? It's the reverse symbol. So the opening symbol opened the container, and which is the first of the 13, and the closing is the last of the 13, and it seals the container. It's the mirror image. And so I remember watching her draw the symbols, and I kept thinking, I wonder how many they are. I remember laying on the table looking up and just going, how many symbols are there? I was watching and I was drawing, but I was like 7, 8, I was counting, like 9, 10, and then I got to 11, 12, and then I got to 13. And I remember watching these symbol appear and thinking to myself, and getting emotional, thinking, it's the reverse of where she started. Because that's what ayahuasca does. She shows you something at the very beginning, every time. For example, one time she showed me 2 skulls kissing. Do you remember that? I posted a picture about it on social, on my personal page. She showed me these 2 skulls. They came from the sides, and they merged, and they kissed. And the whole first part of the journey was telling me that that I came from love. That I'm the product of, that I've been the consistent product of 2 souls who loved each other. I don't know why she told me that, but that was what she told me in one of them. And at the very end of the journey, right as everything was wearing off, I started to see 2 skulls come and seriously and merge and kiss, and then it was like everything shut off. So she always finishes where she starts. This last one, she brought the Aztec sundial. I think I told you that. And then at the end, I started to see the sundial pixelating. Like I saw the edges of it at the 4 corners, and I was like, that looks like the sundial. And there was a little bit more, and then a little bit more came down here, and a little bit more came here, and the little carvings were coming in. And then all of a sudden it merged, and you have the sun god in the middle, and everything went away. So that's how I know it's ending. I'm like, oh God, she's coming back to the sundial. This is over. No, I didn't want it to be over. Yeah. Do you get a hangover? No, it's the only plant medicine that doesn't give me a hangover. Afterward, I get up, cook dinner for the kids, watch TV, take a shower. It's like nothing ever happened. There's 0 side effects. I literally get up off the table and go, thank you so much. That was so great. Can I help you to your car? I always order Italian food to be delivered, and he and I have dinner together because he likes Italian food. And so we have a meatball sub, or I cook, and then he either stays the night and goes home the next day, or he goes home that night, and I usually help him get his stuff to his car, and it's like nothing ever happened. It's crazy. I mean, you are like fully back and like, okay, well, it's 5 o'clock, and where are we going now? Yeah, really something. And you just go back to work the next day. I have a friend who does it in the morning and goes to work afterward. I mean, it's weird. And then you sleep a lot. I usually sleep, a good 8 or 10 hours that night, and then wake up the next day and on you go. I don't go in with questions. It's fun to talk about it. I don't want to digress too long if it's not interesting to some of you, but it's an interesting experience. People get sick doing it, but that's the one thing about the person I work with is he purges for you so that you don't purge. It's the most bizarre thing. But he does this breathing, shaking thing, and so anytime you get nauseous, he all of a sudden it's gone because he takes it and he purges for you. Yes, there are people who do that. So I've never gotten sick because he's the only one that I've ever done the super, super pure stuff with, and he just purges for me so I don't get sick. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. It's actually just the most pleasant, beautiful experience, except when she takes you to task. When she takes you to task, and it can be an hour, it can be 2 hours of her just holding your feet to the fire going, you, and you're like, I'm sorry. So I want to go through and I want to trace the symbols one more time. This is a final reactivation of all the symbols. You want to do it with me? And I just want you to do it with your finger. I'm going to do it on the sheet, but you can do it on your skin. You can draw them again in your notebook if you want, any way that you want to reactivate the symbols. No, he doesn't throw up. He purges by shaking and breathing. He's learned to control it. Some people have to throw up, but he just has learned how to do it a different way. So he like shakes through your nausea and then it goes away. It's really intense. Really? BK, your husband can do that with the... Wow, isn't that cool? There are gifted people, man. I haven't purged really before. One time I kind of like had like a reflux kind of because I drank 3 times. It was probably too much for my body, so a little bit came up, but it wasn't like a purge. I haven't had that experience. Okay. So I'm going to trace these one more time. I want to invite you to trace them again too. And like I said, if you want to do it on your body, if you want to do it in your notebook, anywhere you want to put the symbols. But this is our final reactivation for 2020. Yay! Yay! Hillary's going to hold the symbols on her bracelet while I read them. I love that too. Okay, so here we go with our opening symbol. Might be nice just to take a breath with each one. I usually use my middle finger to activate my Reiki symbol, so I'm going to go back and do it one more time with my middle finger. Okay, and then your emergence symbol. Here we go. Take a moment to really think about where you were in February when you were emerging. It's pretty powerful, isn't it? Yeah. What was happening for you? What was unfolding? What were you preparing for? You know, did some part of you have some somatic awareness of where we were headed as we were in that month? It's interesting to consider, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And then your love symbol. And that was the month, at least here in LA, where everything shifted. Zoe's birthday was on the 15th, and we began lockdown on the 17th. It was like the whole world just tilted on its axis for a moment. So, and yet we were, anchoring in these energies of love, right? Figuring out how to hold love. And, which is really, love is the antidote to fear. So I think we were really calling in this energy to begin to hold the space consciously or subconsciously, right? On some level. Sorry, no, you're right. This was the opening. This was January. This was February. So I'm sorry, March was the symbol. You're right. I got too far ahead of myself because this was before. Sorry, this was. This was the symbol at the beginning, right before we started. So that's right. This was January. This was February. So, but even so, right, calling in that love energy in ahead. Yeah, because what I was thinking actually earlier today was this, that maybe this was the before and after. That's right. Maybe this was the, if you think about it, it's like literally the middle of the month is when everything started to turn and shift. And maybe we were in March starting to see like what that duality looked like. So then this is your union symbol. And I'm going to make sure I trace it all the way. Union. I love it. It's so good. Did you? Yeah, Lisa said I was injured in work and knew my world was about to change. Yeah, I think a lot of you knew. I really do. We can try, Angel. I can check. The challenge is COVID in India right now, and getting anything new carved is really hard. But I can see, since they already made them once, maybe they could do like a small reorder. I love my union ring. It's right over here. I wear it all the time. And I still wear my emergence necklace. I just love them both. I really, really do. Some of our jewelry this year was really fantastic. I love the lariat for the creation. Remember that? So let's trace our creation symbol. Actually, I'm going to go this way. Let me try that again. This is one of the more complex ones, but I want to make sure I do everything clockwise. Because we're activating. You don't want to do it counterclockwise, which sort of deactivates the symbols. So I'll see what I can do. I'll talk to Brooklyn about it. I have a meeting with her tomorrow about class tools in general. So let me see what I can do. Can't promise anything, but I'm happy to try. And then, so this is April. So going into May with transformation. And transformation is like when she drew these two, I was like, oh, they're both hearts. This felt like the evolution of that. The heart was bigger. I remember thinking, oh, the heart's bigger and the triangle's smaller, and now the triangle's on top of the heart. Like me trying to decode it. So then our heart symbol. That's how I do it. So it's like the right loop. No, how did I do that? Oh, I think I brought it back down through. And then June. I think it's okay to retrace lines in these. The big thing I noticed what she didn't do was lift off. So it was just one continuous line, and it's okay to like repeat over the lines, but she did not lift up and then redraw. I remember that very clearly. So I remember thinking, and I wrote in my notes, I still have the notebook downstairs, it says, don't take your hand off the page. Because I could tell that she was not like pulling away and then restarting, if that makes sense. So then into June we had balance, which you can see it's, again, the mirrored image. And what's interesting is, I thought that was kind of cool that lined up for June, right? Because that is the midpoint of the year. It's really the only symbol where you have that kind of perfect balance. You sort of have it in creation, but it's on a different axis, right? So I thought, well, that's interesting. I mean, we're at the midway point of the year, and you have this symbol that really reflects the before and the after, right? And that's when Lexus came in. So here we go with this one, with the balance symbol. Which is one of my favorites too. And Randy started in May. Feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? I mean, I feel like I've known you guys for a lifetime. It doesn't feel like 6 months. It's just nuts. It's nuts. Okay, and then we come into June or July with awareness. So July, August, September. So let's do the awareness symbol together. So I'm going to start at the top triangle. This is one of the more complex of the symbols. The awareness and the ascension, I remember thinking, oh, I don't want to mess that up. But you can see why, because I was like, and I remember thinking there's a line all the way through, and there's a line all the way through. That was what and there was a line all the way through this one too. I tried to make a note in my mind of which ones had these lines through them. And I noticed that, if you notice that the opening symbols of the year are more open, and the closing symbols of the year are more closed. I thought that was interesting too. Well, we did know each other before, but but in this context, right, it doesn't seem like we've only been working with each other for 6 months. So I don't know if you noticed that, like the lines going all the way through, as opposed to here where you have, it's like really big open circles here. The circles get smaller on the July through December, and there's more linearity too, which I thought was kind of cool. And then the harmony symbol in August takes you up with the triangles and then the infinity symbol. This one is actually really fun to draw, and this one's easy to draw, and you don't overdo your lines. So it's the upward triangle, the downward triangle, and then it's the infinity symbol there. Do you see it now that I'm pointing it out? I remember as she did it, I remember thinking they're getting more complicated and more complicated and more complicated, and I remember trying to scramble to write it down. And then the health symbol, I thought was really interesting. Can you see the caduceus in it? Which, by the way, the caduceus figures powerfully and prominently into next year's program because of the alchemy. And so I thought, well, it's very interesting. It's really her take on the caduceus symbol. Right? Do you see it now that I'm pointing it out? Because the caduceus is the two snakes wound around the center line. So then the health symbol brings you all the way down and back up, but you got to be careful with this one because you have to continue the line all the way back up. If you don't do it right, then it's really hard to not take your finger off the page. That one's tricky. Yeah, the more we integrate, the tighter the symbol. I like that, Lisa. I didn't really think of it like that, but you're exactly right. The symbols become more unified and tighter and more coherent as we grow and integrate the wisdom. It's really smart. And a Triton, too. It's true. And the Triton is a really important symbol, too, in all mythology and in Hindu mysticism and in almost every tradition. So then we finally were at the point of integration when we got to October. And that would have been our proper month to do shadow work, but, we'd been kind of doing shadow work all the way along. And then Ascension, this is why I chose to do that cuff for you in that month, because I thought there's something in it that reminded me of the Merkaba. I remember thinking, is she drawing a Merkaba? And then I realized no, because it still had the infinity. The infinity symbol was a big deal. It's in almost every symbol in one iteration or another. And I remember really feeling like that was a focus, that we were to understand the flow of energy, because that's what the infinity symbol represents, but that it can be vertical, it can be horizontal, it can be condensed, it can be infinity can look like a lot of different things, and that we were invited to kind of play with what infinity means and what it represents, right? Yeah, the health symbol is open at the top. It doesn't close. Like the caduceus, right? Like this would be the head of each snake. In the caduceus, it's open at the top. The two snake heads come and they kind of like point toward each other, right? Or a bee, too. I like that, too. Oh, Jan Perko's here. Have fun. I haven't seen you in a while. I'm so happy to see you here live. I mean, I see you online all the time, but, it's like very nice to have you here live. I see it as a bee now. Oh, this one you mean. Yeah, it does look like a bee. So Ascension is, we took the infinity symbol from integration and we flipped it again horizontally. And again, here it's gone vertical and then it goes horizontal. So you see that happening in other forms of it too. So this one, you have to be, just diligent. You're coming down. It's a lot of lines. There's really no way to not overlap it. So the key is just to make sure you touch every line. So I put it with the Merkabas on your cuff because I thought, it almost looks like a Merkaba kind of in its own way it does. Ooh, rubber stamps. I am making, those, I'm obsessed with wax seals. I know it's weird. It's super old school and nobody does it anymore, but I'm kind of obsessed with them. So we've had them made. We have the logo made and they're doing gemstone handles for us. I'm so excited about it. We have Triple Moon coming with quartz, and I think it's green agate with the sage goddess symbol on it for wax seals, and then we got like sage colored wax and stuff. So I'm already having these wax seals made, so I think what I'll do is maybe just give them the Angelifo symbols. Wouldn't it be fun? Would you want that? Some of you may not use wax seals, but something like that would be fun. And then you could use it as a stamp too. The reason I was thinking that would be cool is, do you ever work with polymer clay? Because you'd be able to use this seal, like if you made wands, you know what I mean? You'd be able to put this seal of the symbol on the wand if you used polymer clay before you bake it. Could be kind of cool too. kind of fun, right? I had no idea they could do gemstone handles on wax seals. I was like, now you're talking my language. They're not here yet. I think it's January. Okay, let's take a deep breath because we're going to do the closing symbol. I know we're over time too. Once again, I can talk all night. There's a lot to say. I hope you enjoyed tonight, though. I really wanted tonight to be this kind of like back and forth dialogue and a chance for you to reflect, you know what I mean? And consider and maybe look at places where you still want to take some time this month while you have time to finish the work. To finish the work. Okay, so the closing symbol. We're going to activate it together. And I want to give thanks to the Madre, to the Medicina for that, because it really did come from her. I want to give thanks to my grandmother, because it was my grandmother who really gave me the name for them, right? Ayahuasca proposed, you know, the concept of light, right? And the light coming from, that these are a source of light, codes, right? These are light codes. My grandmother's name was Fotini. In Greek, it means light of God. And so angelophos is literally Greek for the light of God. I think we should. I think in the closing class we should do the symbol too, Heidi. I think it just feels right, you know? Yeah. But let's do it here tonight, since, you know, we've always integrated them or activated them during the first session. So let's do this one now to complete the cycle. Amen, Aho, so it is. So these symbols belong to you now. They're yours to teach, to share. We've activated them. They're in you, right? Just like Reiki becomes part of you, right? These are just now extensions of you. So anytime, anywhere, you can trace them in the air. You can trace them on, you know, if you're, let's say you're somewhere, how would this actually work in real practice? Like, let's say you're somewhere and you do ceremony with people. And you want to close the ceremony and really make it beautiful and special. You could teach people the closing symbol, right? And teach them how to draw it and have everybody do it. Or you could go around and on each person's forehead, right? You could do the symbol and seal the circle. You could do the same thing if you're leading a retreat and you're opening the circle. You could go around to each person. You could make a beautiful anointing oil blend and dip your finger into it, and you can do the reverse of it, which is the opening symbol. These are yours. And so, and I know that you will find so many different ways to integrate them into your practice over time. And the more, it's just like the Reiki symbols too. Like, I don't know if you felt that way, but when I first was attuned, I was in my 20s, and I remember thinking, I'm not going to remember these symbols. You know, like they got increasingly more complex. But I was always surprised. Like, you know what? No, I did them so many times. I worked with them so many times that I was able to memorize them and use them. So my hope, my intention is that you will feel exactly the same way. You'll feel like you have a sense of ownership over them or with them. Oh, thanks, you guys. I love you too. Ooh, Diane says she might give it a try creating them in Adobe Photoshop and then cutting them out with her cry cut. Cry cuts are goals. Oh, that would be interesting. A wand with all the symbols like we did with the runes. Now you got my wheels turning. Because, you know, the carver has all the symbols, right, already from doing all of the generators. Alexis. I would like to have a scolecite double terminated wand with all of the Angelophos symbols on it, or a selenite double terminated with all of the Angelophos symbols on it. That sounds real good to me right now. You're so smart, Sheila. Hey, Alexis, will you help me remember that Sheila proposed that idea so that when they come in, she gets one for free? It's the least I can do. It's a great flippin' idea, and I would use it all the time. And Sheila, I will give you one as a gift when they come in for giving us that inspiration. all the things. I know, it's very smart. All the ideas are fantastic. If you propose an idea and we do it, I will, with the symbols, I will give you one when it comes in. Yeah, selenite, right, Cindy? I think selenite too. It's good to see you, Cindy, by the way. Tonight was really special. So just to remind you, when you are working with your opening symbol, right, I unfold and lead with grace, beauty, and integrity. When you're working with your love symbol, and this is all in your worksheets, I embody love and I invite expansion and intimacy. With your union symbol, I am connected and integrated within sacred duality. With creation, I respect and honor my process and vision. Haven't always done that, but I'm learning. Transformation, I'm open to renewal, revision, and change. Balance, I'm in harmony and balance with all creation. It's part of tonight's work too, right? We're all one. There's no me apart from you, you apart from me. Awareness, I perceive with an open heart and mind. Harmony, I'm in tune and aligned with universal peace. Health, I enjoy perfect health and embrace wellness as my birthright. Integration, I accept and welcome all parts of myself. Again, we're working on it. Ascension, I expand my awareness to include new paradigms of consciousness. Closing. This is Pisces, 12th house. I release and let go with gratitude all that no longer serves me. Amen, aho. So it is. So it is. And with that, we actually made it through all of our worksheets tonight, which is amazing because I think there were like 15 pages of worksheets. We were a little bit on the overload with you, but I wanted to make sure you had all that information in one place. And it does. It has the corresponding stones for you if you want to, grid or whatever way you feel like you want to integrate the stones into. So the Angela Fos Oracle cards, you know this, right, are part of your December tools. Do you guys know this, right? Do you know this? They're part of your December tools. We graphic designed them, and I'm trying to remember if we did one set of them or two. I think we may have printed them twice so that you have kind of a complete set of oracle cards that you can pull. Yeah, we did that for you already. They're like the new moon cards, like that kind of texture and consistency, but they're coming in your tools. We were designing those, I think, 2 or 3 months ago, so it'll be really exciting. I don't have a set in my hands yet, but I will soon, and you will too. Yeah, this is fun. It's just, and what I like about having the oracle cards is you can choose a symbol of each day. They're bigger oracle cards, so it'll also help you like learning to trace them. If you want to learn them a little bit better to integrate them, you can choose one each day and kind of put it on your bathroom mirror or whatever, or just journal with them or pull them so that you keep, it's like almost like working with your stone tree. The more you look at it, the more you work with it, the easier it'll be to remember them. And then they'll become, like I said, I hope, a permanent part of your practice. That was my intention. Well, I'm happy you're here now, Denise. I'm very glad you're here. Your tools are coming soon, so thank you for your patience. And God bless India. It's India and other countries too. Everybody at this point is struggling. But India's had the hardest go of it. And India has the best carvers in the world. And they're like family to us. So, we're trying to be as patient as we can with them. It's been so hard. So thank you so much, you guys, for being here. In all the ways that you are here. In Soul Shift in general, in our community, in class tonight. Thank you for your presence tonight. I hope tonight was exciting for you, because it was exciting for me to see it all come together in this way. So, our next class, which is next week, except we have, I believe, Crystal Masters and we have crafting. Is that right? I think we have 2 classes next week, and then it's our journey, and then it's our closing and graduation ceremony. So it's very exciting. We're doing a grid for the pillars. It isn't done yet. I'm glad you asked about it though, Bree, because we've been ideating and designing it. We're going to do a grid for you to place all of your pillars on if you've been collecting them all year. And so we're just working on the design for that now. So it may take us a little while. It probably won't be here till January, but it'll be kind of a permanent, because I want that too. I don't want, right now mine are all in my cabinet. I don't like things in cabinets. But I was just in the office. I had them lined up against the window, which I will do that too when I get moved into my office. But here I don't have enough room in my windowsill, so I kind of just want like an altar for them. So that was the thought. Elder Council is not tomorrow night. So Elder Council got moved to the end of December. I think it's the 30th, and I requested that because I wanted to see you one more time before the end of the year, and I thought it would be really cool to close 2020 with Elder Council and to ask to be shown what the medicine of 2021 is going to bring. And so it's not on New Year's Eve, it's on New Year's Eve Eve. And then that will be the last time I see you live before the new year. Although I'll probably come live with a glass of champagne and try to kiss you on New Year's Eve. I don't know if it's going to be lighted, Sandra, because the lighted grid person can't do anything because of COVID. So I don't want to wait till next year. So I don't know if it's going to be lighted. It was going to be lighted, and then the lighting situation because of the pandemic, they can't do as much of because a lighted grid is a 2-layer grid, and then other grids are single layered, and then the lighting has to have all the wiring and stuff, and it's a different person to do it, and COVID's gotten in the way. So we'll see what we can do. That grid makes sense, right? Full moon, I think, is on the 20, I can't remember. I don't know. And I just gave you guys a free moon calendar as a GWP, and I don't even have it sitting here. I should like stick it to my forehead or something. I can't remember. I can't hold all the dates anymore. Okay, you guys. So I want to say thank you. I hope you enjoyed class tonight. I enjoyed having you here. And I will look forward to seeing you soon. So, so we were going to have Elder Council tomorrow. We don't have class tomorrow because of that, which is actually kind of good. We have a couple of things going on with the building. We're still under construction. Can you believe it? So Dave and I are going to do some design meetings tomorrow since I'm not doing Elder Council. The 13th pillar, I think that's the other thing. Alexis, can you kind of add that to my list of things to talk with Brooklyn about? So we're going to talk about the wands with the symbols, 13th pillar, whether we can back order some of the early pillars. If you can just kind of itemize these things for me, and then in my call with Brooklyn in the morning, I can go through all of these things and see like what the possibilities are. So Victoria, there's a schedule of your classes in our Facebook group, under announcements, and it's also on your classroom page. And it's a big old meme, and it's got all of the membership, things, and then it's got all the free things I do. The Cosmic Comfort, the full moon, the new moon, the gem sales. So it's got all of your class stuff, and then at the bottom it's got all of the stuff that everybody else can come to too. So 29th, that's what I thought. Yeah, so it'll be full moon, Elder Council, New Year's Eve, 2021. Isn't that kind of fun? Like, I think that'll be can you imagine doing Elder Council during the full moon window? I don't know. It's been a long time since we've done that. It sounded kind of good to me. So Claire and I looked at it and we were like, you know what? I think that's the way to go. So thank you. That's another good question, Cindy. Let me double check. I mean, that's just a matter of reordering the cards. Probably so. But let me double check. And I'll get back to you on that. You guys have all the ideas. I know. I love it. Well, listen, Alexis will keep track of all of your suggestions and questions, and I will follow up on all of them because I think they're all really smart. So, yeah, I really, really appreciate it. We have a live gem sale on Saturday. We moved the public one from Tuesday to Saturday because a lot of people want to join, but they've gone back to work, and Saturdays are easier for them. So your regularly scheduled programming isn't so regular this week. So even though you guys just had your private sale, if you want to join us for the public sale, that's going to be Saturday afternoon. So mark your calendar if you want to join us too. It is. It's our last PoP of 2020, but it's not our last class. So I won't be weepy until session 4. Then I'll be weepy. But I will hold it together and give you a proper graduation ceremony and a proper initiation as priestesses. Tonight I've given you our final activation of Angela Fos, and then you're going to get all your certificates. You're going to get your priestessing initiation certificate. You are going to get your Angela Fos practitioner certificate. You're going to get your Soul Shift graduation certificate, and you're going to get your Crystal Healer certificate. 4 certificates coming. And I don't know if you heard, but we just got certified in the UK. I had to submit my PhD official graduation certificate from USC and prove that I had that, and I had to show our curriculum, and I had to show examples of your schoolwork, and I had to show learning objectives and all. It was a big process. It took a couple months, but there are no certifying bodies for crystal healing or energy classes in the US. Nobody in the US certifies any of this. They used to, but they stopped. So now this place in the UK is the only place that certifies metaphysical online programs, and it was a huge process to go through, but we got approved. So anyway, I don't know if that matters to you, but now there's going to be like a little seal that goes on all the things from this organization that's the certifying body for metaphysical programs. If you didn't get your certificate last year, I'm sure there's a way to get it, Luna. We'll follow up on that for you too. And thank you, Julie. Thank you for seeing me. I really appreciate you. And Kim's crying. Don't cry. You're going to make me cry. Let's keep laughing. Yeah, thanks, you guys. And we'll check on all of that for you. I think the deadline to get your classes, Alexis may know that. I mean, I would say by the end of the month. I think they may have said the 15th of December is the cutoff to get your classes, but I'm not sure if they gave you a specific date. But you're going to have 4 things on your wall, and wait till you see the certificates. They're so gorgeous. Each one is custom designed with art on it, you know what I mean? So each one looks really different, and then wait till you see the logo for Soul Shift for next year. Oh my God, it is so beautiful. I'll ask Claire if I have permission just to like show it to you later, because it's so pretty. It'll be out next week anyway. So cheers to you. Truly. You've come so far. You've mastered things that are very difficult to master. I'm extremely proud of you. Every single one of you, truly. You bless my life. All right, you guys, cheers. Thank you, Alexis, for staying a little bit late tonight, too. I appreciate you. Sheila's migraine is gone, so my work here is done.